Well, Star Wars fans, it happened. Obi-Wan Kenobi has aired and wrapped up about a month ago. Yet, something feels strange. This was supposed to be the project that either doomed Disney Star Wars or became the one thing that was so well done and so special that it unified Star Wars. And now that the series is over, it doesn't feel like either. The series was not horrendous, but it wasn't a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 either. My friend Cole and I were discussing this show a little while back, and he made some points that kind of made me wonder, are we as Star Wars fans almost destined to hate on or criticize everything new that comes out? It seems almost every new project that has come out has garnered some form of criticism. Even The Mandalorian did, though those criticisms were nowhere near the ones that the sequel trilogy received. And in light of Obi-Wan Kenobi, it makes me feel bad for the actors like Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor who poured their heart and souls into this, thinking this would finally be their chance to make something that the fandom can universally get behind now that the prequels have come around. And yet, look at the reviews it's gotten. And it reminds me of an article I saw a while back discussing the new hashtag trending on social media that says, "All Star Wars is good." And it makes me wonder, is that true? I think the answer is no, but also yes. I think that some projects are obviously not on par as others, taking the extreme examples of The Empire Strikes Back compared to The Rise of Skywalker. But while yes, there are corporate heads at the top whose primary agenda is cash, there are also hundreds of people who pour their hearts and souls into a project regardless of the agenda at the top. And so, in light of the reception of Obi-Wan Kenobi, I wanted to make a video that discusses one thing I love about every Star Wars show and movie, which will be very hard for some cases, but even though this video may fall on deaf ears and be hardly watched, I want the creators and the people who put blood, sweat, and tears into these projects to know that yes, all Star Wars is good. I'm not going to include books or comics because I don't have the time, but I have read plenty of the books and comics and almost all of them I have loved. So going back to 1977, I want to talk about Star Wars. I love how simplistic yet complex this beginning film was. I love just how unintentionally goofy and how much of a cult classic the holiday special has become. And that cartoon that introduced Boba Fett was pretty amazing. 9 out of 10. I love how The Empire Strikes Back wasn't afraid to take chances and was dark and expanded upon the source material instead of being a typical Hollywood sequel. I love everything Return of the Jedi does with Luke, Vader, and the Emperor. I like how the first Ewok movie still tries to tell its own little story about courage instead of just being a straight cash grab focusing on the Ewoks. I love how Droids uses story arcs instead of a serialized format. I love how the Ewok voice actors make their tones sound the exact same as the noises that the Ewok characters make in the movies. I love how the second Ewok movie starts out dark and drops you straight into action-packed and darker beginning. I love the ambition of the Phantom Menace. The world building is incredible and the sheer scope this movie had is amazing. I love it. I love the concepts behind the stories this film presents and all it brings to the table that can be explored in a follow-up TV show. I love how this micro-series presents the relationship between Anakin and Padme and Anakin and Obi-Wan. I love how the last third of this movie is practically perfection. I love how this movie opens up on Christophsis. There's lots to love about this one, but to keep it simple, I love Anakin, I love Obi-Wan, I love the clones, I love Ahsoka, I love Maul, Siege of Mandalore, etc. I love Kanan Jarrus. Enough said. I love how fun this movie is. I love how even some 3-minute shorts can still feel super impactful to the overall story and the canon. I love how beautiful the last act is. The story of sacrifice, and man, that hallway scene with Vader. Mwah. I love how bold this movie was, and determined it was to break out of the Star Wars formula and try something new. I love how much of an homage this movie is, and Alden Ehrenreich is perfect as Han Solo. I love what this show did with one of its main characters, Tam Rivora. It was an unprecedented choice on screen, and it was perfectly executed. I love how this show balances old with the new, and still manages to tell an extremely solid and compelling story. I love how this movie evolves the fight from a fight between rebels and the Empire to a fight where the galaxy as a whole stands up to oppression. I love how this show not only features a super personal story between the Bad Batch squad, but it does so with the backdrop of this galactic army that no longer has a purpose. I love that this show is not confined to canon and allows its creators to branch out in whatever story they want to tell with this sandbox. I love how this show chooses not to just be a basic action story, but chooses to give Boba a new arc that combines elements of both eras he's a part of. And I love a lot about this show, but I think the thing I love the most is Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. Remember, Star Wars fans, all Star Wars is good.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. If you liked the video, comment down below and hit that like button. Oh, and check out some of my other videos. I'm sure you'll find them a delight.